I learned to rationalize away abusive behavior, and by role modeling, but also messages like, your father really loved you, he just didn't know how to show it. And it's really interesting because I've been saying that for years, that I learned to rationalize, because that was what I was comfortable with, I get in, as an adult, I got into abusive relationships and I'd rationalize it away, because that somehow, deep down inside, I believe I deserved it. But it's interesting because last year, as a result, one of the things I say in my writing that I like so much, there's things I like so much I quote myself. And one of the things I say is that romantic relationships are the greatest arena for spiritual and emotional growth available to us, because they push all our deepest buttons. The thing about this codependency is, the ego built up these huge walls to protect our heart. And so as we're learning what healthy behavior is, it's relatively simple to start learning how to set boundaries and take care of ourselves in the relationships with people we don't care about. It's the ones that we really care about that the buttons have the most power. But because I've had the gift of being in a relationship for the last 5.5, almost 6 years, with somebody who's also in recovery work on their issues, we had an exchange last year where I had a reaction on my inner child places, and then somehow I made a shift, and I ended up going in, thinking about this thing about, my mother used to tell me about your father really knows you, but he just doesn't know how to show it. And what I got was, that's the truth also. It taught me to rationalize, but it was also the truth. My father did love me, but he didn't know how to show it. And I'd never really owned that before, because my earliest memory of my father was about 3 years old, just absolutely terrified of him, just terrified. But I know from pictures of stuff that, when I was the oldest, I was the first boy, and then he used to, hold me up in his hands and stuff. I know that he was really there and loving to me in that first year. And then the next kid came along, and then the next kid, and then the next kid, and the next kid. And so he was my hero when I was a little infant, And so I needed to make a shift. I needed to own how damaged I was by how his behavior affected me. Because one of the things I said earlier is I think that I had more shame because he was there all the time. If he would have abandoned me, I could have made up stories about him. But he was there every day and treating me like I wasn't lovable. Treating me like he didn't love me. And so it did a lot of damage. But he did love me. And he was doing the best he knew how. He was just an emotional cripple. It was really important to me. So I need to, that's what happens in recovery a lot, is we need to own how much this damaged us, but then eventually get to the other side of it too.